So this week is kind of what I think of as where the rubber meets the road, right? And everything that we've just been talking about, we start to be able to take what we've already been working through with lesson 1 and lesson 2, and now we're starting to expand in how do we work with that, what that's like the ground. And then what our conversation just was is how do we begin to work with all those forces in our lives, right? Not just our personal conditioning, but the societal pressures on us. And how do we, and how do we liberate ourselves from that? And so the first couple of sessions are the first foundation of mindfulness. So that was split into 2 because it's really the base. It's where we sit, so to speak. Well, make a pun, right? It's where we sit, and we can come back to the body. The body is always available, and the body is always telling us the truth, right? If we know how to listen and how to feel it. So we started with the breath. We started actually with the breath and posture. And as I was sitting before you all came, I was exploring posture and what posture is telling us, and when you lose posture, and when you can come back to posture. And the feeling of losing posture usually is because the mind has wandered, right? And then, mind wandering, posture, where am I? What's happening? Coming back into posture, like automatically, I don't know if you've had this in your sitting time, it automatically creates this deeper sense of being in the body. And then we explored and in the context of the breath, we explored the ways of knowing the breath. And in the guided meditation, I hope it was clear that I sent you, and this is from the traditional teaching, sometimes it's just good enough to feel the in and out. Sometimes we want to go a little bit, more in detail with how the breath is presenting itself, because every breath is different. Like I said last week, like a snowflake, right? I mean, every moment is different. Everything is new every time. And so we start to interact with both something that's both constant and constantly changing, right? Which I think is interesting to trip on. And then the whole body of the breath and the different ways of, the wave-like experience of the breath, sensation of the breath, and also how the whole body feels when you're breathing. And then what is the most important for me, who's fairly advanced in my neurosis, is calming the body, and calming the body with the breath, and letting the breath be the vehicle for really calming the body down. So that's the breath. And then last week we worked on really, as we're here in the body, feeling the sensations of the body, right? And watching them change. They come up and they go down. Everything's constantly changing, right? Sometimes getting worse, sometimes it's going away, And so this week, what we're going to take a look at is what to do with that, how to begin to really interact with that in a really and I want to say, as I was sitting this before class, I think I want to lay the groundwork, kind of the ground rules for this exploration that we start to do, because we want to be spacious. We want to be open. We want to, in our first lesson, we talked about the virtues of a healthy heart-mind, right? Do you remember that? This is where we also begin our cultivation of realizing our own healthy heart-mind, right? Because we're going to start to see in this lesson the aspects of our programming and how they arise in our experiences, right? And so when that happens, we want to hold it in the most gentle way, holding ourselves. The two, I guess I'm going to say, what kind of is coming to me recently in teaching this class is there's like two streams of mindfulness. There's the awareness and starting to become aware of all kinds of things. And what we want to do is the North Star is our freedom and our healthy heart mind. So as we, so our freedom and I'm going to say our spaciousness, because it's more than just love is too interesting of a word, right? It's too overused as a word. The kindness, the generosity, the spaciousness that actually can be found by coming home to the body. Is any of that, do you have any reactions to that? And
I like the concept of spaciousness because it is much more all-encompassing, and it feels like a really worthy goal without the pressure of the L word, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a term in the tradition called loving kindness, but we don't, we're encouraged in this course not to use that because it's confusing and it mixes it up with love, and love is so co-opted, But so I think for our purposes, we're just going to stick with the concept of what's a healthy heart mind. What are our innate virtues, right, that we can cultivate, and how they free us. So that's like the North Star. And we kind of have to go through the mud. That's not a lotus, but in order for the orchid to... my teacher always used to say, no mud, no lotus, because lotuses literally grow in muddy ponds, right? So we're really looking for that opening of beauty that sits within us.
Let me interject a
Yes,
real quick
please.
thing. I have little soul cards that I often just randomly pull one and say, this is my thought for the day. Today it was community, which speaks of the big picture. And I flipped on my phone, and this strange person I'd never seen before started talking to me. He was quoting Thomas Paine, and he said, "My country is the world." And I just went, oh my God. Okay, that's community. Okay, now we're talking about spaciousness. It's like, that's today for me.
That's cool.
Very cool.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. That's really cool. Yeah, so I'm going to reread Viktor Frankl because I think it's still foundational. I just think, there's a lot of quotes that could be happening, but I love this one so much. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power and our freedom to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our happiness. And it kind of just really, it's something, you're just taking that in. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today what we're going to explore is, I'm calling it the pleasure-pain continuum, for lack of a better word. But these are kind of and we're going to explore our reactions to those things. So it's, what's pleasant, what's unpleasant, and what's neutral. And then how we respond. So in every moment of every day, we are having one of those three reactions. It's constant. And our response to those reactions to the stimulus, whether the stimulus is internal, our own thoughts, or whether it's internal to us or external to us, like the beauty industry we were talking about earlier. Our conditioning is what drives our response. So that's why I say this is kind of where the rubber meets the road, because we start to really get to know ourselves through that reaction to what's happening. We get to know, oh, this is how I'm conditioned. Oh, this is, And then we get to make a choice, we get to create that space long enough to make a choice based on something other than our programmed responses to things and our immediate responses to things. I have a family member staying with me, who's my cousin, who's my closest cousin, and she'll say something and I'll be, "Argh," and I'm like, oh my God, I'm just like her, right? I mean, it's like, I'm like, finally I just said, okay, that was just a conditioned response that I had to your statement. Can we unpack that a little bit? I'm sorry about that, right? But you start to see, oh, I just reacted like that without thinking. So our first couple of lessons are where we start to create this space, this ability to begin to hold ourselves. And I'm going to go back. I think the posture is so important. And in my first class, one of my students said that just the posture, just finding the posture here in the lower part of our body, just this groundedness changed everything for her. So I never underestimate the power of posture without turning it into a cajole. Isn't that the word? Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah. So let me just see what else. So our responses are gonna tend to be basically this. We're either gonna go into desire, aversion, or confusion.
Oh, good.
So there's not a lot of choice.
Yeah.
I mean, it can come in a lot of packages, but there's some basic, you can use different words. Desire, you can use clinging, longing, wanting, leaning in, and energetically, that's what you do. When you really want something, you're going to find yourself going, yes, right? It's like the smell of a pot over a stove, right? You don't stand back and go, hey, that smells good. You're like, give me some of that, right? That's kind of like, so that's desire, and it comes in a whole range of, and aversion, the same, comes in a whole range. It could just be as simple, no, that's not for me. It could be hatred, it could be anger, it could be violence, aversion comes in a lot of packages. And confusion can be, the traditional word is delusion, but I think that's a little hard to capture. But confusion, not knowing what to do, not knowing what your right action is, not knowing what's true and what's not true, not being able to discern, right? And there's a saying, there's no fire like desire, there's no grip like anger, there's no net like confusion, I'll just say. And that kind of sums it up, right, for me. To me that lands.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why I want, so the first two, especially anger, especially desire and aversion, are the two fundamental responses to stimulus.
Say those three things again.
Desire.
But there's no fire like desire?
Oh, there's no fire like desire. You just burn for something, right? It's like in the heart's fire, right? There's no grip like anger, right? You think of, and there's no net like confusion. Like you can't respond through a net. A net captures you and immobilizes you, right? I think it's brilliant, but I like that kind of poetic.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important for us to be really remember the groundedness of our seat, the breath, the sounds, how easy it is to just know what our body is doing, just move your hands. How easy it is do you have to effort to know that you're moving? No. So we want to keep it that simple. We keep it simple, and next week we'll work on the inner critic, but we start to get to know our critic too, and so we want to really be gentle in our approach to today's lesson and the next couple of lessons going forward. In the end is the big payoff. It's a beautiful class, the last one. So I'm going to stop the video.